An example, the 26th of September 2024, media host, in already calling your opponent a liar, you have already crossed one of the lines of the culture that we try to establish here. I wish you hadn't. Mehdi, I don't mind, it's fine. The media host, you don't need to do that to make your case, please. The media host continues, Mehdi Hassan, your answer is no to the question were Israel's actions in the Gaza war justified. Mehdi, alright, so, ladies and gentlemen, the question were they justified, were the actions justified? Media host, and it would be great if you don't feel the need to respond to the personal attack. Mehdi will decide when we get there, John. Were they justified? No, obviously not. Of course not. October 7th, we can all agree was a crime, a war crime. We can all agree to that. And taking hostages is a war crime. And those hostages should be released. But to destroy an entire place, an entire people in response is never justified. Never justified. How are we still debating this? I don't understand how we are still debating this more than 40,000 deaths later. I don't understand how we're still debating this sitting in the comfort of New York, 7,000 miles away from a place that the UN Secretary General has called hell on earth. Why don't people realize that having a country is not the purpose of life? Having a collective that you would call your people is not the purpose of life. I want a future of peace between us and our neighbors. He cannot help but cherry-pick the evidence. Then he repeats it a second time, saying, he cannot help but cherry-pick the evidence. It is like he is telling him his diagnosis and why he behaves the way he does. By the way, since we're all in the spirit of asking questions, how do you feel about taking money from the racist Rupert Murdoch every day?
Okay. The 3rd of November, 2024. On this day, 12 years ago, from Facebook. So, most of you know how the situation in Syria has gotten really messed up these past few months. We were locked in our house, the military forces that fight those so-called criminals or terrorists in Syria. They forced us to stay home, never leave the city, and break into everyone's houses and destroy everything they touch. And when they report to the media, they tell them that it's the terrorists that had done what they did themselves. We got locked in with no electricity for more than 2 weeks until they told us to evacuate our own house and leave somewhere else because they want to use the houses on our side of the street as a defense against those terrorists. Aside from that, they parked their tanks behind the house and broke through the walls after making a hole in them so they could pass because they couldn't cross the street or go through the main road. They told us that they're not gonna be there for a long time since it's just a small problem and they have it under control. After leaving our house, we went to my uncle's house and lived there for over 20 days, give or take a few. Throughout this period of time, we tried to get in our house and take some clothes that we needed to wear, but it was kind of impossible since they were settled there. After 20 days of struggling to get into the house, we could get in, but it was such a disaster. The house was ruined. They took my 2 laptops and my mom's laptop as well. They broke 2 of my guitars to pieces and stole my friend's electric guitar, destroyed one of my electric keyboards, and the house was ruined. They wrote on the walls trying to convince us that the terrorists did that to the house, and they had nothing to do with anything, although all of the writings were written the same way, the same everything actually. So in conclusion, we were kicked out of our house, had the house destroyed, robbed, and left with nothing but the ruins. So much memories were destroyed. Now we're searching for a new beginning, somewhere safe, although that's not even possible here, where I live. I just wish I could just vanish, since everything I had was stolen or lost. When people say, screw the world, I wish I were dead, now I know how that feels. No, I don't. I don't know how it feels.